So hello everybody, thank you to be here. Very happy to be here with my colleagues. We will present you today some approach that we are set up in Servier in order to serve the R&D area. So first of all, to begin with the presentation, just to remind that R&D in Servier work very close together with DDIS. It's a very important binomia in order to administer what we call a data analytic program or data analytic roadmap, which is made of critical points that we have identified in the R&D, within the R&D chain, in order to say at that point, there are some issues, and with an intelligent usage of the data, we will tackle with these issues by putting in place some use case. And this is what Ronan will present you, two kinds of use cases that we have addressed and that we have set up in order to serve the R&D, to answer the needs that we have in the R&D. This slide is very important because it's our goals, our objectives, very simple. For each of our therapeutic projects, so it's a very long process, and you know it's around 10 to 12 years, billions of euros. We have two objectives. Secure our project, so it's what we call the probability of success. We want to be better and better, and to secure as soon as possible with the usage of data, the probability of success of our project. And for sure, if we want to stay focused on the patient, time to market should be reduced more and more in order to serve the patient in the rare disease that we work in Servier and hard to treat cancer on which we are focused. So now Ronan will present you the kind of use case that we address for the R&D.
Yeah, so thank you, Albin. So one interesting thing to say, as any other industry, with the recent advance on generative AI, we expect to have a lot of opportunities that before these advancements, they could cost a lot of money, a lot of effort, or they couldn't even be possible. So with our colleagues within R&D, we identified several initiatives or use cases along the R&D value chain. And what is important, I'm not going to enter into the detail of each one, but basically, we could actually categorize them into three groups. So first, there are use cases regarding insight generation, meaning based on documents and texts and process already existing data, we could actually generate insights for our researchers. There's a second type of use case regarding productivity, meaning, for instance, code assistant accelerating day-to-day activities from our researchers. There is also a third group of use cases that you can see on the drug discovery column, that they are different. They're going to leverage LLM technologies, Gen AI technologies on a different kind of data. Not using text data, but using molecular data, protein data, amino acid sequence data to provide new information on the drug discovery pipeline. So we did this work of gathering these use cases with R&D, and Paul's going to talk a little more about how we did to prioritize those use cases and to decide where to start.
Thank you. These new models, as you know, these new models that have been buzzing this year about generative AI, and they are still quite recent. They offer a lot of opportunities, as Ronan just showed you, the different possibilities in terms of use cases. And the difficulty is really to know where to start. And that is why Servier fixed two time ambitions. The first one is a short-term timeline. And the objective is really to put in the hands of end users in the different R&D teams some incremental value that brings them incremental operational efficiency. The second timeline is much more mid-term, and we will aim with this kind of use cases to tackle much more ambitious use cases with much more impact in terms of probability of success and in terms of reduction of time to market. How we assessed the use cases and how we categorize them in the different time frames. So we took three criteria. The first one is really impact, so how it impacts Servier strategic goals. What is the contribution of the use case to these goals? The second one is safety. You are all well aware of the hallucination phenomenon, where we know that these algorithms, they give you probable answers and not validate or real answers. And Servier choose not to start with use cases that have a direct impact for patients, just to avoid any safety issue. As we know, there will be important safeguards to set up. The last criteria is feasibility. As these models are quite recent, we do not have much feedback on the technical feasibility. That is why we choose to start with the ones that have the most probability of success.
So as Paul said, we did this work of prioritizing with R&D, and we chose 2 use cases to start that we're going to dig a little deeper in the next slide. So the first one is data access assistant. So on the productivity use case, try to accelerate day-to-day activities from our researchers. And the second use case, documentation explorer, where the objective is to generate insights from documents, in this case, scientific publications. So these were the first 2 use cases, and we are already in discussions with the clinical development to try to empower, using GenAI, empower what we call medical writing. What does that mean? Is, for instance, to try to generate and accelerate the generation of protocols for clinical trials, try to generate the forms that a patient has to accept and sign before entering into a clinical trial, or helping constitute the documents that a pharma company has to present to authorities before putting a drug into the market. So in the dotted lines here are the next use case that we're talking about. So now I'm going to dig deeper in those 2. So data access assistant, what is the objective is to interact with databases that are ingested in our data platform. So the first specific use case that we have is on the real-world evidence department. We have data analysts that has to spend days and hours building complex queries to interact with databases. So we're building a system where they can only ask a question. So for instance, how many patients do I have with this type of cancer that had received this treatment in first line and this treatment in second line? And the system will answer with the query, and then they can query the database and get the result that they have. So in terms of value, what this can bring is accelerate their day-to-day work, and we are also thinking about replacing some software that they are using to interact with those databases. So this is a use case, as I said, to augment and accelerate productivity of data analysts in the real-world evidence department. The second use case regarding insight generation. So we have Document Explorer, and the idea behind is to generate insights from scientific publications. So within R&D, we have a department that is responsible to produce what we call the safety report. So researchers is interested in a gene to start a therapeutic project, and then they must actually know what would be the side effects of targeting this gene, meaning inhibiting, decreasing the activity, increasing the activity of this gene. So what they do today, they have to outsource to another company to produce this report. So what we're building is a system where they can simply ask a question: what are the side effects of a given of targeting a given gene? And the system will provide an answer, and very important, the list of the sources that it used to produce the answer. So if you can just put, so the value here, cost avoidance. So now we use a third-party company to produce this report. So this could accelerate and replace potentially this company. But there's also something interesting, because today the researcher, it spends a lot of weeks to try to come up with a gene, and then it has access to, he or she has access to the safety report. What this can bring is this researcher, he can, with this tool, he can have access more earlier in the process to the safety risks of targeting a gene. So this could be a very interesting value for our researcher. Now we have a little video, a demo of this application. So what? Let me click, yeah. So what we'll see here is the application that we developed. So it's a POC, so we have selected some beta users in this department responsible for creating the safety report. Yeah. So in the demo, what you would be seeing is there is a bar where the researcher would ask a question. So what are the side effects of targeting a gene? And on the left side, you will have the list of the sources, the list of the scientific publications that gave the answer. And on the other side, you would have a summary of the answer. Yeah, maybe for another time the demo. So what I would like also to explain is a little about the technology behind those solutions. This is an architecture called retrieval augmented generation. So as you may know, LLMs, ChatGPT and others, they are very good on providing general answers based on all the data that they had learned. But when we want the LLMs to answer to specific questions regarding a specific source of data, they are not very good at it. So researchers, they propose this architecture so we can actually use the power of the conversational power of LLMs, but asking specific questions regarding specific data sources. In our case, we want to ask a question about a gene, but you don't want the LLM to answer things based on Wikipedia, based on random text. We want the LLM to answer our question based on scientific publications that we selected before. So how does it work? We take the question. So for instance, what are the side effects induced by the inhibition of a given gene? And what we do a process of embedding. Just to explain very quickly. So this is the place where we will transform the text, the question, into a vector. So we use a part of the LLM, of the LLM model, to transform this, and then we are also going to transform each of our publications into a vector. And then we are going to store everything in a database. So just for you to have a notion, these embeddings, when I transform the word king in a vector, and I transform the word queen in a vector, they will be very similar. So the distance between those two will be very near. But if I take king and bread, the distance is going to be far. So instead of doing this with words, I'm going to do this with whole phrases and with the chunks of the documents, the scientific publications. So I put everything on the databases, my question, my documents, and then I'll just calculate a distance. So here I have my question, then I have the documents that are near my question, and then I will ask the question to the LLM. So this is what we call the prompt in the end that we pass to the LLM. So we say to the ChatGPT answer the question, what are the side effects, using and then I will copy paste all of the documents here. And then I say in the end to the prompt, do not invent facts. Just provide me with the answer. And then what we'll say, it will give an answer based on this context, based on the documents that that were retrieved on the database that were near my initial question. Now I'll let Paul and Alban finish with some remarks about these initiatives that we started doing.
Yes, with this first use case, we have some first key learnings. So I will tell you about change management, and I will let Alban tell you about scalability. So on change management, there are two things that are a bit more different, or a bit two effects that are a bit more important with generative AI projects than with traditional AI projects. The first one is technological transparency. As I said before, this generative AI can have hallucinations. It's very important to provide the end user of the application with the ability to quickly validate the result. So in the case of the data access assistant, For now, it is available only for people who are able to understand SQL queries, so that they can, when they have a result, they can validate that the queries generated from the algorithm is valid. And the second very important fact is people acculturation. We need to train our end user that the application is really can have this phenomenon of hallucination and what they are in the right to expect from it. And it's very important that these users do not take the results for granted, put the safeguards in the processes in place so that we avoid any risk.
So and then scalability. So scalability, let's see that totally correlated to a kind of capitalization. Without scalability, you do not capitalize. So first, for sure, you have to identify pilot exactly as we did for the use case that have been described by Renan. And then you ask yourself, okay, it's good, but what can I do more in this area, in this kind of use case, in some other area, in order to, effectively scale up and to use broadly the technology and to just see in the end this new technology as an enabler in some area, some other area. So thank you very much. Do not hesitate for any question, either technical or much more, let's say, global.
So first, thank you for the presentation. I have a question which maybe seem basic, but you work on medical papers, on scientific papers, right? That is your base data. We see more and more scientists using AI to generate their medical papers. So my question, I don't know if it's relevant or not, but aren't you afraid of cannibalism of AI? What I mean with that is AI generating papers, used to put contexts, used to find methods, used to find drugs, which would lead to big amount of bullshit somehow.
Yeah, so of course we're afraid of that, but it's kind of specific to this use case. So in the safety report use case, what we say to the researchers, because even though we still don't have a lot of papers using generative AI, we can have papers that they do not trust. So what they said, I want for you to use only specific journals that we have confidence, and maybe that's what we're going to do in the future. On the document database, we're going to filter which journals are we going to put, or which authors maybe, or each universities and centers of research want to put in that.
Okay.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. A quick question, can we see the demo maybe in the area? I don't know, in the demo area. And the second, what kind of embedding database do you use?
So nowadays we're using the embedding database from GCP. So I forgot to tell, so we have a strategic partnership with Google, so we have access to experts on their side, and then we use their embedding API.
Then I have another question. So what I understood as being generative is when you vectorize things, right? When you go from text to numbers. Could you explain it very simply how you do that?
Yeah, so basically we have, how can I say, a model that we're not really going to use. And this model, this deep learning model, we're going to do a self-supervised train on lots of text. And what this model will do is to reduce the dimension. So imagine the dimension that you have is all the words in a vocabulary, all the words that exist. You do a one-hot encoding, you put a one, where's the word that you use, and then you use a model to actually predict, let's say, the next word. And then if you do that with a lot of words, in the end, you have this layer that has learned with all of these texts, and then in this layer, you have a reduced dimension. You don't have all the words in the vocabulary. You say, let's say, 2,000 places, and then this matrix of weights in the model, they learned the proximity between the words. And then you're going to use only this matrix to your embedding. actually the model that you created is not used. You're going to only use the weights and then multiply and then get your vector at the end. I don't know if I was clear.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
I think we have a good news. We might have the video working, so let's cross fingers.
Cool, I think it's going to work. If you can put full screen. Yeah. So here you can ask the question. So what are the side effects of inhibiting LLRK2? It's a gene. And then on the left side here, you have all the documents, all the scientific documents. And on the right side, you have the generated answer. So actually, the LLM will summarize here on the right side. So it will summarize what it read in all of those documents, and which is very important for our researchers when doing this kind of things is actually, okay, this is the document, this scientific publication helped me generate this answer. So we can select different questions, you can type a question from scratch, and on the left side you have this panel where you can tweak some parameters, but most important, do you remember on the RAG that we have the prompt here? This is the prompt that the user could change. So here we said, hello, you're a help assistant at Servier Pharmaceutical. We have this question, use this context. But it can change. So here, by the end, we say, don't invent facts. So this is something that the user also can change and tweak according to its needs.
That's all we have time for now, but they can catch you outside at your stand, I believe. Let's give them a warm hand. Thank you.